We're here today to honor the sheriff, police, fire, EMS, ambulance, and 911. All of these working together make it possible for us to keep you safe and to work for you and give you the service that you need in this county.
April 12th is a day of this year that none of us will ever forget. About 4 o'clock that morning, as Butch just said, Carrollton police officers heard urgent radio traffic from Zach that he had just been shot at multiple times on I-20 near Temple. They learned that his vehicle had been disabled by the suspects who fired the high-powered rifle into the front of his car multiple times and then fled toward Carrollton. Sergeant Holloway immediately gathered his officers, D shift, and briefed them on the circumstances. Under his direction, they mobilized to various locations and were quickly able to locate the suspects traveling along the 166 bypass. Corporal Wesley Cheatwood and Sergeant Holloway did not hesitate to maneuver behind this vehicle, attempt to stop them, fully knowing it would be a violent confrontation most likely. The suspects fled on 61 towards Villa Rica at high rates of speed. They began to fire an AK-47 at Holloway and Cheatwood. Despite the danger, both officers remained in the pursuit, at which time Sergeant Holloway was struck in the head by one of the rounds after it penetrated his windshield. Sergeant Holloway lost control of his vehicle, collided with a utility pole at a high speed. Corporal Cheatwood and the rest of D shift immediately came to the aid of Sergeant Holloway, who was barely conscious and had suffered a catastrophic wound to his head. As a team, D shift removed their sergeant from the wrecked patrol car, began rendering aid by packing and wrapping his head, stripping his body gear, his duty gear, his body armor, in addition to look for additional injuries, and all the while encourage him to stay with them. Simultaneously, they coordinated a medevac helicopter to be deployed nearby in a landing zone. They then carried Sergeant Holloway to a nearby patrol car and transported him to the landing site where an ambulance waited on him, and then a helicopter flew him to Grady Memorial Hospital. Sergeant Holloway never stopped fighting and is here with us today due to his will to survive, the love of his officers, the skill of many medical professionals, and the amazing grace of God. The courage and resiliency that displayed Sergeant Holloway and his shift of officers in this incident reflects the highest traditions of law enforcement and embodies the spirit of the Carrollton Police Department. In recognition of their heroic actions and steadfast resolve in this incident, I am honored to present the following officers with the Life-Saving Medal. Officer Zachary Hicks. Officer Richard Bryce. Officer Alec Uglum. Officer Kane Moore. Officer Bradley Lopez. Corporal David Hernandez. Corporal Wesley Cheatwood. And in recognition of his courage and selfless actions in this incident, I am honored to present Corporal Wesley Cheatwood with the Medal of Valor. In recognition of his courage and selfless actions in this incident, and for the resolve and tenacity he has displayed every day since, it is my honor to present Sergeant Rob Holloway with the Medal of Valor and the Purple Heart.
Again on April the 12th, and I got a call very late, early in the morning. My chief deputy only calls me when it's something after midnight, when it's something bad. And so when the phone rings after midnight, terror. Sorry. Terror goes through my heart, On April the 12th, 2021, multiple jurisdictions, as you've heard, within Carroll County were involved in a high-speed pursuit led by an armed occupant who was actively shooting at officers using a high-powered rifle. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office was notified of the chase and joined in the pursuit on Highway 61 toward Villa Rica, at which time the Carrollton Police Sergeant, Rob Holloway, had been struck by gunfire and crashed his cruiser. All agencies and officers involved knew what a dangerous situation this was, and that the suspect clearly had no regard and wished to inflict and kill as many officers as possible. And they never stopped pursuing. Those officers were fired upon, but they continued to pursue in order to preserve life and to prevent further tragedy in the community. The suspect vehicle came to rest in the area of Highway 61 and Wentworth Road. A perimeter was set up in the early morning hours before daybreak as shots continued to ring out in the neighborhood. And he was firing at officers in their vehicles. Deputies Kent Evans and Levi Cavender were off duty at the time and learned of the situation and, laying their own safety aside, responded to the call of duty to assist their fellow officers during this very dangerous situation. Corporal Jameson Trout and Deputy J. Repetto, who were set up on the outer perimeter, became aware that a Villa Rica officer had been shot and was down. And as they still heard shots ring out, Repetto jumped in the car with Corporal Trout, the vehicle without hesitation, and traveled towards the gunfire. Corporal Trout and Deputy Repetto were ambushed by the suspect, and you may have seen that on television, with a high-powered rifle. Deputy Repetto was shot as well as Corporal Trout was pelleted with glass from the windshield as the bullets came through and shattered his windshield. Corporal Trout and Deputy Repetto were able to stop the aggression and kill the suspect. As Corporal Trout and Deputy Repetto exchanged gunfire with the suspects, there was also many other things going on. Captain Guy Pope and Deputy Mike Reed were also on the perimeter. And when West Georgia ambulance personnel needed to respond and wanted to respond, they helped them to respond to the area where the officer was injured. Still, with gunfire going on and not knowing what was happening or unfolding, Captain Pope and Deputy Reed took control of the ambulance and placed ambulance personnel in the rear of the vehicle for their safety, and they all entered into an active shooting scene. While Captain Pope drove the ambulance, Deputy Reed covered them with a rifle as he hung out of the passenger side of the ambulance, ready to engage with the suspect, if necessary, to save the Villa Rica officers' lives. They were able to locate the officer along with Repetto and Corporal Trout and began to render aid to these injured officers. Due to all parties, all agencies, and their dedication and willingness to preserve life, each of these men are heroic and went above and beyond in placing their own lives in the line to save others. Their actions are to be commended. Their bravery in the line of duty is to be recognized, for without their heroic actions, innocent lives would have been lost. These brave men are an asset to the Carroll County Sheriff's Office and to the citizens of Carroll County. And we wish to present awards to these individuals and recognize them with Medals of Valor. First Medal of Valor is Captain Guy Pope. Might add that Chief Deputy Brad Robinson and Major Craig Dotson are presenting them their medals. Second recipient of Medal of Valor is Corporal Jameson Trout. Third recipient is Deputy Michael Reed. Next recipient is Deputy Kent Evans. Next is Deputy Levi Cavender. And last but not least, the recipient of a Medal of Honor and a Purple Heart for being shot, Deputy J. Repetto.
On April 12th, when this incident occurred, usually I get a call from our lieutenant over patrol, Hunter Etheridge. I didn't get that opportunity because my daughter works for Carrollton Police Department as a receptionist, and she called me and filled me in on what was going on with Rob. And because it was close to my house and I knew our guys were involved, I went ahead and responded out there with them. And when you mention the word hero, people talk about athletes and stars and people like that. Guys, they got nothing on our folks. We got nothing but heroes. Hunter, if you and Captain Parker will bring our guys up, I'd appreciate it. We have one missing that has COVID. We had another one that had another engagement and couldn't be here. But I do want to recognize our guys. We had a ceremony, and I want to thank our mayor and council for allowing us to do it. We had a ceremony for these officers at our council meeting, and recognized them with medals of valor, and Chase received a Purple Heart for being injured in line of duty. But I kind of want to tell you real quick what these guys and folks did that night. When the call went out, they were chasing them up towards Villarica. Our guys, Sergeant Fowler had gotten them staged in certain areas in case they came on in. They intercepted them there, not too far from the city limits. They crashed. Our guys set up a perimeter. I know Chase was on one area of the perimeter. Other officers were on other parts of the perimeter. The suspect, armed with the AK-47, advanced on Chase at his patrol car. Chase had taken cover behind the patrol car, and the suspect advanced on him. And guys, that's not something that normally happens. Most of the time, these guys are trying to get away. This guy, as the sheriff said and Chief Richard said, they were wanting to take the life of a police officer, and they had proven that already. So he advances on Chase. Chase is returning fire with him. Chase was struck 2 different times, once in the shoulder, once in the leg. We also believe that Chase had on his rifle vest that we had recently purchased with the help of our community. Thank God. We had put them in action 3 weeks before this incident. One of the rounds struck his rifle vest near his abdomen and stopped the bullet and we believe saved his life. And you guys can get part recognition for that because you are the ones that helped us buy those vests, and we thank God for that. The deputies came, like the sheriff said, they were able to stop the threat. Sergeant Fowler, along with Kane Hemingway and Officer Rodriguez, advanced to get Chase. They got Chase, put him in the back of the patrol car, covered him, brought him out where Officer Walton was able to administer some first aid to him. Then we were able to get the EMTs there, thank God, because the guy Pope bringing them in and get him out of there, get him on a helicopter and fly him out. And just some heroic things. And I want to recognize our guys for what they did, and the folks you have up here. Chase Gordy, like I said, received the Medal of Valor, also a Purple Heart for being injured in the line of duty. I'd like to give him a hand first. And then Officer Walton assisted, like I said, on his medical and helped keep him from bleeding out. And I want to recognize him. Thank you.
And I've been working in Carroll County since 1989, and it is truly a family of public safety here. We all go to the same. We all try to make things better for everybody else. On this night, when our ambulance got there, normally when we pull up on a scene like this, we're going to stage away from out of harm's way, because if we're hurt, we can't help other people. Guy Pope and the other deputy that came to our crew and said, "Hey, we need to go get our officer that's down." Didn't hesitate. They got our crew. They took them in. They protected our crew. We don't have weapons to shoot back with, because we're there to take care of folks. And that, to me, going into a scene like that is heroic. That's the only word I know to put with it. I'll be brief, but thank y'all for what you've done for everybody here today. Thank you for being here and helping us celebrate everybody still being alive out of this incident. Thank you very much.
I'm blessed to be able to serve as the 911 director for Carroll County. I've been in this position for 6 months now, thanks to being appointed by our chairman, Michelle Morgan. And I wanted to recognize the 911 operators, call takers, and dispatchers for that night on April the 12th. The beginning of this ceremony, I was in a better situation, but thanks to the sheriff and the chief, they broke the seal, so I'll try to make it through it as calmly and emotionless as possible. As you all probably know, every year there's weeks that are dedicated to law enforcement, different members of public safety, as well as dispatchers. And this particular week was National Telecommunicators Week. That was the first day of that week. And the only thing I know to say is that the Lord told me that I needed to be there that night, because I went to spend some time with them. I was only 46 days in the position, and I figured that it would be best to go spend time night shift and get to know the people that I was tasked with leading. Little did they know that the early morning hours, that their normal shift, but what you probably don't know and what people don't know is there's never truly a normal day in law enforcement or in the 911 world or EMS, fire, anything of public safety. But we didn't know that in the early morning hours that their final few hours of the shift were going to change dramatically. The Georgia State Patrol called and notified us that they were in a pursuit with a subject on I-20, and we immediately began giving that information to all the law enforcement agencies. It was just a short time after that they told us that the trooper was taking fire, and then that his car was disabled and the suspects continued on. I watched the team in the 911 room work tirelessly. Goodness gracious, I'm getting emotional too. I watched them work extremely hard to try to gather as much information as possible, because they didn't know if the suspects were going to be found. Sergeant Holloway and his team with the Carrollton Police Department began working extremely hard and dedicated on setting up perimeters all around the city, setting up different locations in case they ran across the suspect, to which they did. It felt like to us, in a matter of just a few minutes, that they had already made their way, into the inner parts of Carroll County. When Sergeant Holloway and the rest of his team engaged in a pursuit, I overheard Sergeant Holloway coordinating many different efforts with his team for their safety, making sure that they were going to be okay when they came across these suspects, if they did engage them. He was putting them ahead of everyone else. The men and women in the 911 room were never more focused, or have never been more focused. I was in awe and in amazement at how hard they were working and how focused they were to get every resource in the county from every neighboring county: Coweta, Douglas, Paulding, Harrelson. Even agencies from Alabama were offering their assistance. When they were notified that Sergeant Holloway had been struck in the head, they immediately been gathering and notifying every other resource imaginable, from every ambulance that we have, neighboring county ambulances, getting every helicopter that we have access to in the air, all while we were hearing screams from multiple different officers for us to help them. And after 14 years on patrol myself, I can't tell you how hard that was to hear. But knowing that we have 911 operators, dispatchers, and call takers that care that much, especially for our citizens and people that I consider my family, it made my heart at ease. I watched these men and women show that they cared for these people as if they were their own family. The amount of passion and commitment and care that I witnessed that night was the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. I called on employees that were not even working, and they responded to the 911 center in record time. They were there to assist us, give breaks, and help any way possible without hesitation. All I had to do on the phone, and I guess they could hear it in my voice, was say, "Please get here," and they were there, some in 5, some in 10 minutes, from all the way across the county and in neighboring counties. Every single employee that was working or came to the rescue that early morning is a true hero and a huge asset to Carroll County 911 and the citizens of Carroll County. I'm honored to be their director. I'm honored to have them by my side and take on this new, challenging but rewarding career. And I'm honored to recognize each of them today, if you'll give them a round of applause. The first recipient is Supervisor Melissa Smith. The next recipient is Dispatcher Caitlin Harris. The next recipient is Dispatcher Lucas McMahon. The next recipient is going to be Judy Squires. She's unable to be with us today. We'll still give her a round of applause, please. The next recipient is Dispatcher Vanessa Penaloza. Our next recipient, who's also unable to be here today, is Dispatcher Ashlyn Welker. The next recipient is actually one of our training officers, Dispatcher Amber Davis. The next recipient, Dispatcher Kayla Bates. The last one that's unable to be here today, the next recipient, is Dispatcher Kayla Cousins. The next recipient, I want to say something about her real quick, is Dispatcher Bailey Trout. I had just hired Bailey back to the 911 center after being out of this line of work for a couple of years, as she served for the Department of Community Supervision as a probation and parole officer. But she decided just maybe a week or two prior that this was where she wanted to come back to. While she was working that night, y'all have to understand that not only was she dedicated to the job, as we heard Chase Gordy fighting for his life while telling us that he was fighting for his life over the radio, she was doing that while remaining calm and promising him that we were going to get him help all while her husband was being shot at. So the next recipient, Bailey Trout, give her an extra round of applause. Our next recipient, Supervisor Misty Zapata. And the final recipient is Dispatcher Emily Duvall. That's all I have. Please remember that all public safety is important, and sometimes 911 is forgotten, and we're not forgotten because we know the public cares. We choose to serve that line of work and that position, but we're behind the scenes. So I just want you to remember these men and women today when we remember everyone else. Thank you.
Tomorrow, September the 11th, 2021, marks the 20th year anniversary of the 9/11 attacks against the United States of America. And the following times that day are forever etched in our memories. At 8:46 a.m., the World Trade Center North Tower was struck. At 9:03 a.m., the World Trade Center South Tower was struck. At 9:37 a.m., the Pentagon was struck. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. At 10:07, Flight 93 crashed in Pennsylvania. And at 10:28, the World Trade Center North Tower collapsed. 20 years ago tomorrow, those attacks took the lives of over 3,000 U.S. citizens, including 340 fire service personnel and 72 law enforcement officers. It is the greatest loss of life at a single event involving public safety personnel in the United States. Please take a few minutes tomorrow to remember that day 20 years ago. And please continue to remember the families and departments of those that died that day, those that you've seen today, and those that have given the ultimate sacrifice in Carroll County.